this is serious stuff here. One technical note that you may not be aware of, but that I think will work well for your material is um, uh, Zoom has just added, I mean, in the last few days, I think, the ability for a participant to play audio without having to share video, so that we'll be able to listen to your work while still gazing at you. And
That is
that,
good news.
do you know how to do that?
Yes, I was actually watching your class when you discovered it yet last night. So
Oh, okay. See the Twitch stream, baby. That's really, that's really okay. Great, good, good. See, we're in the future here. I don't have to communicate my thoughts. They're just out there in the ether. Um, all right. Well, good. Well, and have you practiced it and does it work?
I did, yes, and I believe it worked.
Okay, all right. Well, your beliefs are what's on trial here, so that will be it will be useful for us to check that out. All right. Well, so we will begin the official part of this meeting. Never since Thomas Jefferson dined alone, as they say, has there been such a meeting of intellects in one place. Well, and we're not even that. So this is the defense, the capstone presentation for the degree of Master of Fine Arts in fiction for Greg Kassen. And we will be talking to Greg for, perhaps an hour. We'll see how long it pleases us to keep Mr. Casson on the griddle. And we asking questions and listening to aspects of his work and tales of his tragic beginnings here at SIU, and which he has turned into triumph, or perhaps has. And so my co-panelists are Professor Josh Woods and Professor Mary Bogomil. We're all professors. You're the only person here who's not a professor,
Whoa.
Greg. Okay, I didn't know if that would make you feel lonely, or
I always feel lonely.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, we will continue that by stressing the differences between us and you. Um, and we're going to determine in this brief hour whether over the past 3 years or so you have earned the right to the degree of Master of Fine Arts. And that is the degree that I hold. That is the degree that Josh holds. Mary, of course, is a PhD, so she outranks us all. But she's also a lit person, so it's kind of dicey. You know what I mean? Like it's like, well, okay, but that we know that what the lit people do is made up, right? So I mean, it's at least as fictional as what we do. But this is the panel that you chose. You chose the form of your destructor. Think of us as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man of the Southern Illinois University Carbondale MFA program. Are you prepared to begin? Are you prepared to spend the next hour to hour and 15 minutes beguiling us?
Yes, yes, I am prepared.
Okay.
Ooh, I'm spotlighted. Well, hello everyone. If you don't know who I am Greg Casson. I've been a student here at the SIU MFA Fiction Writing Program for the past 3 years. This is hopefully my last semester, assuming I'm allowed to graduate.
Well, we're very much hoping so. I have to say I've been looking forward to your graduation since the moment I met you, Greg.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Um, and I wrote my thesis. I think it's fairly unique. Should I start talking about my thesis? It is entirely audio. When I in my second semester here, so my first year here, I got into audio just through one of Pinckney's workshops, and I found I was kind of really interested in it. So I ended up working with a lot of audio projects during my 3 years here. So with Pinckney's permission, I created the entirety of my thesis is going to be is um, audio pieces. It's and I have about 4 excerpts prepared for this defense. Each are about 4 to 7 minutes, so it's about 20 minutes in all.
Okay. Each is, by the way,
I'm sorry.
each is a singular.
Awesome. I would like to start by sharing one of the excerpts, if that is all right. And I now know how to share just my audio. So,
and you can share it out in stereo too. I don't know if you have stereo effects built in, or if you're coming at us from the 30s and 40s, but yeah, you can actually share it in stereo if you want.
I don't think I know how to do that. So
it is if you click share screen and then go to at the advanced tab, and then go to computer audio. There's a little down arrow.
I see that. Yes.
See that?
Stereo.
And you can click from mono to stereo high fidelity. And our audience, and I assume that they are piling up in the Twitch chat room even as we speak. Our audience is very demanding in terms of our production values and the quality of our audio. So I would very much appreciate it if you would share in stereo high fidelity.
Absolutely, I will do that. So I'll start by introducing this first excerpt. The audio thesis itself is a collection of 9. I don't like to call them short stories because they're very much they're more unique than that, I think. So the audio narratives is kind of the term I've given them. There's 9 of them together. It's collected to be about 2 hours in all in length. And I have excerpts of 4 different ones. And this first one is called Departure to Hell. It is essentially, there's no dialogue in it whatsoever. It's a soundscape. It's all sound effects. And all sound effects I found that's in the public domain. They're all properly licensed. I found most of them, if not all of them, on freesound.org. Very helpful website, but it's my retelling of Dante's Inferno, and the excerpt I'm gonna share is it starts midway through through this journey. He's in, I think, the 3rd circle of hell, which is the giant tornado whirlwind, and it's that is going to be the first thing I share for you all. So please let me know if you cannot hear what I am playing. All right, so that is my first excerpt.
Very good. Well, as you know, your sort of pure audio work is among my favorites of your work. I mean, I'm a fan just generally, but those are the first ones that I heard from you, and I really like them. I could listen to that for quite a long time. But so you and I have had much occasion to talk over the last 2.5 years or so, Greg. So I will cede the floor to my colleagues who've been gracious enough to volunteer their time to be here to help us with that. And so, Josh and Mary, feel free to ask anything you like related to what we just heard, related to Greg's character flaws, whatever you want to know, he must answer. That's the ancient code of MFA defenses.
I was cracking up. I don't know if you saw me. I was cracking up during the audio, because I'm just imagining the people, just browsing or surfing randomly through Twitch, and then suddenly they see this weird looking, like this crazy looking dude with his dead face while we're listening to
That's a fair
hell.
description of me, Josh. No, I agree. I mean, it's really sort of delightful. I'm really glad that Zoom has allowed us to share audio this way. So, Matt
Yeah, so
Gordon says viewers. I don't know what that means exactly. Perhaps we have viewers. Are you
12.
expecting viewers, Mr. Kassen?
Matt said 12 of them. So
Really?
yeah, 12 people. I'm surprised.
So you called it a soundscape.
Yes.
So
yeah.
I had actually listened to this a couple times. All right. Because I thought for me, it was really powerful, because it conjured up all these images in my imagination. And that's what I was doing. Like, I have the cacophony of voices, the hellhounds barking. I mean, I thought I heard the lid of a coffin slide. I heard all these things, and I kept on going back to it. I know why Pinckney likes your work in this particular mode, because it really does engage the listener. And at first I was petrified. Can I tell you, it was probably not the reaction that you wanted to elicit. I'm going, oh my gosh, where are we going with this? Okay. And then I found myself when you go on a roller coaster and you're scared to death, I think of Tower of Terror. I went back for more. So I listened to this one 3 times. So that's how much your use of sound effects, I agree, it really impressed me. And you know me, Greg, right? I got each of your stories. I get everything typed up. I mean, and I kept on thinking, I wanted to ask you about the inception of this. And if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about the inception of some of the other stories as well. Okay. So were you reading Dante?
I had read Dante during my undergraduate, so
Sure.
I didn't reread it for this, but I know enough of it, and I had a plot summary. But I want to talk. I want to talk a bit about why I chose to do audio instead of traditional prose anyway. So, I first, an early draft of this showed up actually in Pinckney's workshop the second semester I was here. It was during when the pandemic first broke out, and we all had to go to class over Zoom. And actually, interestingly, at that point, a lot of Pinckney's class had turned into just blanket fort radio theater, and most students were working on that. But I was, I believe, the only student besides Mitch, but by that point he had dropped the class.
He'd been ejected from the class, but
yeah, he was no longer in the class.
Mitch was a character.
So I was the only one because I elected not to be a part of Blanket Fort Radio Theater, which is the SIU Press audiobook project that the creative writers are doing. At the time, I elected not to be part of it because I didn't live in Carbondale. I commuted to class, and I didn't feel I would be able to pull my weight, and I'd just be a dead load to whatever group I was a part of. But now, since I have an apartment down here, I am doing stuff with Blanket Fort now. Anyway, most people were doing Blanket Fort stuff, and for the first few weeks, I was just like reading short stories, and I was like, it was always kind of a dead part of the class because everybody had these wonderful audiobooks that they were making, and I was just holding a paper in front of me, reading, and so I was like, well, I really want to start getting into audio as well. So that was my inspiration to start doing audio. And a piece like this, I think, was just natural, working with sound effects, because I didn't have a very good mic back then. I'm not super confident in the quality of my voice. I also wasn't super comfortable reading in front of a mic. So I was like, well, sound effects are fairly easy to find online. What if I just mash a bunch of sound effects together? So I spent maybe 3 weeks mashing random sound effects and see what sounded cool, what didn't, and played around with it. And I created a couple of different works like this. And that was, I think, the first time I really worked with audio. And the Dante's thing is just, I must have been looking at my bookshelf or something and just found it and thought it would make for a good soundscape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, one of the questions I was going to ask you, I didn't want to call them short stories either. And when I was trying to write about them, and I said, this doesn't work. And I like what you said, audio narratives.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me. There is a piece, another kind of what can I call it? Labyrinthian structure of In the Zoo.
Oh, yes.
You know what I'm like? I'm actually going on the journey with you in the zoo. And I felt it was kind of a Proof-Rockian journey, because do you want to change? What do you want to do? Like, it seems like the narrator's kind of, there's a tension between apathy and empathy. And you're just sitting there in the middle. So I'm like always waiting for something to happen. When you constructed In the Zoo, what were you thinking about? I know that sounds like very general. Did you have, many writers, they'll see a painting or they'll see something that inspires them to want to create something else, kind of a response, engage with that. And I was wondering, what did you do for In the Zoo?
Okay. Well, for that story, and for those watching on Twitch, one of the audio narratives in my collection is about this security guard who kind of gets abducted, I guess, down into the underworld, and he starts looking at this zoo full of mythical endangered creatures. And the inspiration, I guess, for that and what I was leaning on it was two specific sources, both very similar. Jorge Luis Borges has this book, encyclopedia of it's book of fabulous beasts. Is that right, Josh?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, you know,
J.K. Rowling. I'm making a stupid.
I'm gonna double check it, make sure it's fabulous, but I think it is.
The J.K. Rowling is what, fantastic animals and how to deal with them or something.
Fantastic Beast.
Yeah,
I don't
I
care.
reject all the works of J.K. Rowling. No, not true, actually.
And the other book is it was a Joe Nigg book, which is a person who has shown up in Josh's podcast. And I bought he has this big book of its primary sources for all these different mythical creatures. And those two books, I own both those books, and I was like, and it's just, I had a lot of references to these different kinds of mythical creatures. I was like, what if I just throw them all and say they all inhabit some kind of zoo? Like, what would that zoo look like? And that was the where a lot of that
correction, by the way, we got it for people freaking out. It was Borges was imaginary beings and Nig was fabulous beasts. So
and Rolling is fantastic beasts.
Yeah, I don't know about her.
You're not in with the zeitgeist, Josh.
Thank you.
So did it take, was it a long process to create in the zoo? Because it's one of your longer pieces.
Well, I mean, every piece was a long process because there's a scripting piece. I mean, there's a scripting, I have to script it, I have to revise it, I have to then record it myself, find sound effects if it has sound effects. I need to edit the audio, proofread it, and then go back and re-record anything that needs to be recorded. So it was a long process. I don't think it was any, like, the recording process and the editing process was a little longer than the other pieces, but comparatively, it wasn't much.
Well, since we're spending time on this piece, do you have an expert of it available?
I can create one real quick.
That would be great. I'd love to listen to a few minutes of it, just since we're discussing it.
Yeah, when I first opened the thesis and listened through the table of contents, and then I heard one of the stories was called "In the Zoo of Mythical Beasts," I just jumped straight to that one and listened to that one first. And yeah, I think that one, if we're looking like which one of those pieces mixes narrative and soundscape together, I think that would be the showpiece. I really did enjoy Departure to Hell as well. The textures of the sound, like the stone on stone grinding, I was really enjoying. And then I think another one, although it purports to be just kind of a voice narrative one, but ended up being one of my favorites, was the responses taken from the police interviews of Mr. Sean Barnes, I think, or something. And it was how you read it, Greg. It was the texture of your voice. Like, you didn't go, I'm a trucker and I might have killed somebody, because this is what truckers sound like, because I watch 70s movies or something. No, instead it had the weird soft sound of people who really do kill people. In this kind of, I don't know, the sound of the delivery was exactly right for me, and so that one came to life.
Awesome. Well, I do have an excerpt for that one as well, but I can play a bit of the Zoo of Mythical Beast. I don't have a specific point pointed out, so I'll just grab it from the front.
Let's just dive into it and listen to a few minutes.
Awesome. I can do that. Let me share my sound once more. I was first hired by a tall man in a metal mask, not unlike the images of the lunatic from the prisons of France. I was walking home from the night shift when he approached. I worked security, was contracted out to the local zoo through a third party. I had my uniform on, but was not allowed to carry a gun. At first, I assumed he was an eccentric drunk, dressed maybe as some video game character I never heard of. But when he spoke to me, the confidence and clarity of his voice let me know he was sober and dead serious.
Do you wish for a change? in your life?
Yes. At that time, I think I was looking for a change. No education, no family, no friends. I was living each day just to make it to the next, wasting away in a studio apartment on booze and on porn. I knew if nothing were to change, that I would die like this, with nothing. So, yes, I do want to change. I long for something more. I never quite understood why it was me, why the tall man in the mask chose me. I had ambitions as a child. I was special, I thought. Truly believed myself to be some kind of important figure for the future. A genius, destined for a grand title. But at some point, I realized how insignificant I truly was. That I was just a normal person, fading into the haze of the crowd. I followed the man a ways through the unfamiliar parts of the city. But, really, the only parts familiar to me were my building and the walk to my job. Dawn was breaking, and my interest was fading. I just wanted to go home and rest the 8-hour shift away. We came to a parking garage. I followed him in, ducking a bar to prevent vehicles from entering. And it wasn't full by any means, yet the parking spaces weren't empty either. In the garage, between two cars, stood a cage slightly taller than I am. There was one animal in it, a cat, too large for the confined space by the looks, and it had its face buried between its paws. It seemed larger than the lions at the zoo, but had a similar mane and same color fur. Perhaps this was a truly wild creature. Nature morphed its body to be superior than the imitations contained by us men. "What is it?" I asked. It looked up from the nook in its arms and stared at me with its blue, human eyes.
The extinct species of India and Persia. What lays before you is a manticore.
So it is. The manticore, uninterested now, dug its human face, back into its paws. It flicked its tail, and only then did I see the hooked spike at the end. "You have more, right? Can I see more?" The mask moved. I think he was shaking his head up and down. "What do I have to do to see more of this?"
Follow me down.
All right, that's about 5.5 minutes. I think that's enough of an exit.
It's good.
But yeah, then he follows him, and then he goes and looks at a zoo full of weird creatures like the manticore.
How did you do the voice of the guy with the mask?
Oh, that I went to $2 General and bought a metal bowl. Well, I was looking for a metal bowl, but it was actually they only had like a doggy bowl, so it's a metal doggy bowl. I don't own a dog, so I just now have like a metal dog bowl that's just sitting in the corner of my room, and I put it on my mic and I talked through it. And it gave it this nice
Oh.
echoey sound.
Is it though still a dog bowl if you don't have a dog?
Yeah, I'll just eat cereal out of it.
Yeah, I
That's
think
fine.
this is a case where we'd have to consult Borges to understand the category of a dog bowl owned by someone who doesn't have a dog.
But yeah, that's this practical effect that I used.
No, it's very funny. I mean, and like the laughter. I love your patience. That you're willing to do things, until they truly become unnerving, right? And not just at the narrative level, but like, what the hell is the performer doing? Like, what did the writer do? And how long is this going to go on? And no. So there's a real challenge to the audience in those kinds of moments, which I think is very little graduate student work wants to be challenging in that way, right? I mean, it may want to be challenging, but it's very, very little of it is confident enough of itself to be confrontational. But the laughing sections seem to be like direct confrontation with the audience in a way I really like and admire.
Yeah, and that in the arrangement of the pieces go something like that, I think too, or that backs up your view of that, Pinckney. Like the first one, the Bobcat, goes in a relatively I don't know, perhaps less challenging kind of innocence to experience literary story, and then you go right to Adam Takes Synthol on the Radio, which is not like a typical literary innocence to experience story. Although I guess it is. He learns that maybe you shouldn't take synthol on the radio, but so, and then that jumps right into the sense that you're not getting a typical just reading of a graduate thesis. I think I should just add that, Greg, you're really lucky to have this kind of thing going on, man. You got a chance to do kind of a performance defense. You've got a chance to do something experimental with your thesis, and then you executed it well. The audio sounds professional. You've got the quality of what you're doing. It, like Pinckney said, it's challenging. It definitely stands out above what I remember to be MFA theses. I haven't experienced one in a long time, but this would have blown people's minds then, and I'm willing to guess it's different now.
Outraged.
Yeah, actually, they would have been furious. They were furious about mine, and mine was just a text. So if this would have got you stabbed in the by some thesis committee members back in the day, which is a good thing, I think. So, and even it had this kind of like your musical interludes between each piece.
Yes.
Kind of took me back to kind of the Lord of the Rings audiobook kind of thing, where like you're finished with disc 1 and we play this kind of nice thing. I liked it. It was really cool. I do have questions for you, by the way, Greg.
Go ahead.
Well, one is, and these are not necessarily like the leading questions or anything like this. Like, I know the right answer. Let's see if I can stump you. I'm just, they're real questions. Like other than the medium of audio narratives, Greg, what did you see as the element or the theme that ties all of these together? Like, why is it necessary that these are the narratives that need to be in a collection, rather than one of these out and say, some other piece that you could have made in? What ties these together?
I think there's two loose things that tie most of them together. The first is the setting. Um, Most of them take place, I think. Most of them, a lot of them take place in either Southern Illinois or St. Louis, because I grew up in the Metro East, which is like the Illinois side of St. Louis. I grew up 40 minutes away from St. Louis, so a lot of my writing is influenced from that area, and a lot of my pieces take place around that place.
Okay.
I think another thing that combines them all is, or at least the vast majority of them, is in a lot of my pieces, it seems to be a reflection of our world, but there's something a little off with it. There's just a little element that's changed, that it's to show that it's not exactly just a mirror of our world. Whether it's a completely made up historical figure that I'm talking about for
Right.
12 minutes, or whether it's it turns out there's a secret zoo miles under the city. I think each piece has something like that.
And so I guess a follow-up question to that. Well, okay, I'm going to skip that follow-up question. I'm curious about this other thing. With this thesis now as your graduate opus, would you, if somebody pins you to the wall and say you don't get to say both, would you consider yourself more of an auditory artist or a writer at this point?
If I can't choose both.
No, because that's too easy. They're not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you do that. I'll find you and physically pin you to the wall.
Well,
the scary thing is with Josh, that's not an idol. That reads more like a promise to me.
Well, I don't feel very comfortable calling myself like an auditory artist, because there is a program here at SIU that deals more directly with that I'm not a part of. Like I'm in the MFA fiction program, and even though I am doing a lot of audio stuff and I very much enjoy it, I mean, most of my audio stuff is still amateur in a good way. Like a lot of it's self-taught it's through my own trial and error. But what I get, I think, I wouldn't. A lot of my audio stuff is informed by my fiction writing and going to this program and learning to be a competent fiction writer. So I would have to still probably call myself a fiction writer over an audio artist.
Well, what do you say, Greg, to the criticism that could be leveled, I think, and that has been leveled and will continue to be leveled against this thesis, that this is really just too easy? You know what I mean? That other people are grinding out their time, forging in the smithy of their souls the uncreated conscience of their race, and you're putting a dog bowl over your face. And then just recording whatever comes out. How do you respond to someone who says that?
Well, I would argue it's not easy. There's a lot of work that goes into audio. There is still a scripting process. Like all of my stuff was scripted beforehand. But there's and beyond the scripting process, it's I have to actually record. And I would not consider myself a good actor now, but I'm, compared to the stuff we're listening today, significantly better than when I first started. But I have to record the stuff, and I purposely wouldn't record everything myself for this specific Thesis. I've done stuff before where I've had other grad students record for me, and I do still have those connections. I could have done that, but I wouldn't really wanted this to just all be me. And a bit of that as well, because it's my thesis. I felt like it should all be me. But I also have to edit the audio, and it's a lot of work. And I'm not doing this instead of writing like a novel. I'm not like avoiding writing. I'm not doing this to avoid writing. I mean, there's still a lot of writing in it, just takes a different form. And there's a lot of pre-writing involved as well. So I wouldn't call this easier by any means.
Okay.
What I admired about you is the performative quality. I kept on thinking theater the whole time. They have like one-handers where they'll turn the light off the stage and the actor is telling the story. And there's nothing, it's a bare stage. There's nothing there. It's like a disembodied voice. But then when you bring in all these sound effects, I felt like what people used to describe old radio programs. All right. But I felt that I was with you in the performance, in the journey, because you engaged me as a listener. And the one thing I was worried about when I saw it, I said, oh gosh, it's going to be, will he be able to maintain my interest? And this is nothing against you. But usually when someone reads a book on tape, I prefer to read it myself and see the language and use my imagination and who I would put in that role, whatever it is, especially in theater. So I like the performative quality that you have. I mean, I would call you sort of like a performance artist. And when you said that, what connected the stories, everything's a little off kilter. So I'm always like from the one story to the next story, audio narratives. I kept thinking, okay, where's the twist coming? I'm waiting for it. And how does he hook me in to want to listen beyond a minute or two? Because I don't mean to sound like I have a small attention span or whatever it is, or limited, but I was surprised that you could do that. I felt that I was out on the California coast and I was part of maybe the forensics team. And you're talking, okay, these descriptions of the whale. And then, what is it? Was it Bahir and Cripps?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember everybody because I listened to these twice because I wanted to see about the construction of this story, because usually I'm used to reading, the story and then it's performed like in theater. I look at, so I know what you mean about a script, but your ability, because of your performance, you were able to engage constantly. And I didn't know anything about this footbridge and this history. And I wanted to know, do you think that first person narration works better when you're doing these podcasts rather than, I heard like the depth of the podcast, if you do a lot of omniscient third person narration, it kind of distances the listener, the voice of God, like kind of telling you how to think. Do you agree with that? Do you find it more effective to do the way you seem to do it to me? You seem like you're talking right to me.
I think it depends a lot on what specific piece it is.
Right.
But I find it easier, I think, since it's just me working by myself. If I have like just one narrator, I think it makes more sense. And as you talk about the performance, I think it makes more sense performance-wise if you can, if I can play a narrator than play an omniscient narrator, right?
No, I wondered that. I was amazed at, we were talking about how to put the collection together. Songs of Innocence Experience, the Bobcat, I went there. Adam takes an, I didn't know what I was listening to. For a second there, I'm going, oh my gosh, I think, okay, Mary, what are you doing? Okay, as I said, I'm like, then I realized like the extent of it. I mean, oh my
Is
gosh.
Mary, are you saying you felt implicated? Were you feeling
Yes,
implicated?
yes, yes. I'm like, I'm going there, I'm going, oh my, and I supposed to, like, let's see where this goes. Right? I just like, I was totally startled. Let me just tell you. That one, yes, I didn't know where to go on that. And I love it because I'm kind of thinking he's going to talk about a gym. He's going to talk about advertisement and these commercials and how they're going to change you. And, you know, because of all this stuff, it's on all the time. It's everywhere. And you had me laughing. And then all of a sudden, when you start injecting synthroid into the various appendages, I'm just like going, oh my gosh, where am I going? Okay, where am I going? So I've got to tell you that one, you know, that mad laugh thing. Yes, that's what I sounded like after a while, because I didn't know how to react. You know, whether to be, like you said, implicated, embarrassed, I'm not sure. So I was trying to go, now where are we going? So the next audio narrative, I think it was, oh yeah, the police interview. I really liked that because I felt like distance. I wanted to know more, but all I know is that Lincoln's dead. I think he's dead. And there's the hotel room, you know, where they're staying over, you know, night. And he goes in there and there's nobody in his room, right? And I love where you just kind of left me, but yet you kept me at a distance. Footbridge was a lot of work for the brain because it was historically, you know, all about, what did you got? You had Carnegie in there and the Eads Bridge. You had this Argentinian, there's the battle, and I'm going, where am I going? Where am I going? So that one was more, to be honest, that was a more difficult piece for me. Did anybody else feel that way, or if I'm just?
It's complicated. I mean, that's one I've listened to a couple of times.
Yes.
To kind of, you know, work it out and make sure I'm actually getting what I think I'm getting.
Right. Did you find it like footprint? Okay. Where's my footing? That's what I wanted to know. And I'm trying to think, is it linear, non-linear? Because I was trying to get like a historical thread. That's what I was trying to do. I was trying to find a chronology when I was listening to it, and my location where I was. You know, that was the most, honestly, none of the other stories were difficult for me. That was my most difficult for me to find out where I am in the story.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
Yes,
because that piece jumps backwards and forward in time.
Yes,
constantly.
It does. Time shifting, and I assume it's Jorge. Is that who I'm supposed to be?
No.
Okay, I'm really good. Okay, I must apologize. Okay.
Don't apologize. Greg should apologize.
Oh, sorry.
That
sorry.
was,
No, sorry. You're correct. I misunderstood the question. Yes.
Oh.
What'd you ask me? Say that one more time.
I'm trying to follow the person I was following throughout
Yes.
the story was Jorge.
Jorge, yes, that is correct. I'm sorry, I misunderstood the question.
Oh, great. I'm glad. I thought I was so, no. Thank you so much. I'm relieved.
Now, Greg, Mary just gave you some great stuff there that you should burn into your memory. that you made her feel uncomfortable, unsure of what she's doing with her actions while she was just listening to your piece. I don't think that reaction is one that we get much out of a graduate thesis. And she even gave you a way to fix the title of this collection, because I hate your title, Greg. Most of it is talking to myself. It's no good, man. I don't like it, and I'm not joking. It's bad. And so, but she said a little off kilter, like a little off kilter in the fantasy world of Metro East. Like, there's your title. And then that kind of would spark my ear,
And a
or
little off kilter would be a great serial podcast.
yeah,
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, yeah, here's episode 12 of A Little Off Kilter,
yeah.
a podcast.
oh wow, Greg, I can be of help.
No, it's very, I mean, that's really helpful. Like, I mean, so many thesis defenses I've been in are, sort of people like touting their own, deep understanding. And it's really great just to hear somebody go like, Greg, you confused me. Stop doing that. Right. Like that's, but no, I mean, and, we so seldom talk about emotion, right? And yet, obviously, this whole project, the project of all of us is about, eliciting emotion and, trying to put people at odds with themselves, in interesting ways. So, yeah. Well, Greg, will you play another piece for us?
Yeah, I would love to. Would you rather me play an excerpt from the police interviews or an excerpt from Adam taking synthol on the radio?
Let's hear the police interview.
Okay, that works. I can pull that up here in a bit. All right, this one is 6 minutes and 35 seconds long, is how long that excerpt will be.
Okay.
Let me share my sound once more. My accounts of what happened, well, I know Lincoln. Sorry, I've never used one of these microphones before. Yeah, I can tell you. I know Lincoln. I knew Lincoln as a trainee in this trucking business I used to look for. I'm not there anymore for other reasons unrelated to the Lincoln incident, but yeah, he was a trainee in one of my trips from Chicago down to Dallas. It was supposed to be a 4-day trip, but he went missing after the second. The first day we drove, I drove the entire time. And just so you know, this is not an uncommon thing. I mean, you gotta observe first to learn how to drive. And you know what? Part of our job is we can only drive a certain number of hours, and we gotta make our miles in those hours. You know, we get paid by the mile, so you gotta know how to balance those well. So to make the time to make it to Dallas in a timely fashion, it was my job to actually drive us there. On the first night we stayed in my my truck has a nice little cabin, 2 beds, a bed on the ground, and a pull up one up top, pulled off on some exit ramp in some goddamn state. And yeah, he wasn't too happy with me. We started arguing a little bit. He thought I fucked him over on the driving. But here, listen, go fucking call the dispatcher, see if they take your side. They won't. I'm the trainer. I know how to train. I've done it before. I do it my own way, yeah. But like, they're gonna take my side over yours. He wanted the bottom bunk, but I told him, "Fuck you. That's my bed. Like, I live here. I live in this truck. This is my home more than my own goddamn home is." So but yeah, no, he had this just real fucked attitude about him, and he started pacing, right? There's like maybe 2 steps between the beds and the front, for the gap between the drivers and passenger seats. 2 steps. He just jogged, paced, walked back and forth, step, turn, step, turn. And at first I figured he was trying to blow off steam, or maybe it was something he needed in order to sleep at night. But after about a half hour, I had to ask him what was up, and oh, nothing. I'm just getting my exercise. I've been sitting all day and I need to stretch my legs a bit. If you want exercise, Lincoln, why don't you go jog outside? I can't do that, he told me, because, we're in some crazy fucking country, and, the murders here often go unsolved. I don't know. I'm not sure what they were. The second day he drove. And it wasn't because I was conceding his point or anything. I was just too tired to drive. It would not have been safe for me behind the wheel. I figured, I could at the very least observe. But he kept getting mad at me. I'd slip in and out of consciousness. I napped at one point. It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes, and by the time I woke up, we were pulled over on the side of the road. He was just looking at me with this disappointed face, and I was like, what the hell? Why are we pulled over? You fell asleep. Yeah, I fell asleep. You can still drive, though. You know what you're doing. He was like, no, your job to be a trainer, and you gotta train me. So I was like, fine. We drove for a little bit, and I told him there was a rest stop, just this little diner and gas station thing. So I told him to pull over there, and in the gas station there was I asked him if he could get me a Gatorade. So he walked off, and I locked the doors behind him. And when he came back, he was banging and pissed. And I told him, no, go hang out in the diner for an hour. I'm gonna go take a nap. I need one. And I'm not letting you in this goddamn vehicle when I'm sleeping. So after an hour, he came back, and we were on our merry way. And he seemed happier. I let him drive, and he drove fine. I was attentive. I was, he was doing some stupid shit with. There was this one time that he was just following this truck on the right side of the lane for so long, and I was like, dude, just fucking pass him. Like, oh my god, I didn't know I was allowed to. Yeah, bullshit. But no, I was playing along. He wanted to make sure I was paying attention and make sure I was being the nice mentor that he wanted. So and that is the end of that excerpt. Also, I think my mother might be watching. I'm sorry for all the swear words.
It's okay, Mama Kassen. We have not sullied your boy. It's just a necessity of the job.
Yeah.
Greg, I was thinking back on this is the first thesis defense I've been in since my own, like 50 years ago or however long ago that was. And I was thinking back, like, I wished I would have picked their brains a little bit more, and so maybe I'll just throw that opportunity to you right now. What questions do you have for us?
Oh, I didn't know I'd have this opportunity.
You do
Uh,
now.
Well, I guess the first question that comes to mind is, what's the favorite piece? Because all nine of my pieces, I think, are all kind of vastly different. So, well, maybe not vastly different, but I definitely think it has a wide range of tones. So, if you had to pick one, what would be your favorite piece?
For me, it was the responses taken from the police interview. I felt like, yeah, that that one, I felt like I was listening to the line got blurry for my ears, or when I was able to lose that line between fabrication of a fiction and hearing a real audio artifact. And so it wasn't suspension of disbelief, it was more like Tolkien's secondary belief,
I
like,
was going to say,
yeah,
and that's Tolkien, right? Is
yeah,
when you're not consciously saying to yourself, well, this is a story, but I will choose to believe the story. But you
yeah.
think, okay, I'm just encountering the thing, and I agree. I mean, you just nail that character, and it would have been a very easy character to caricature, to misrepresent, to overplay or underplay. And the details are convincing, like the sort of the working class guy who's doing his job. And I mean, it did not feel to me like you had never seen or been around a semi. And that's the problem with that kind of work, right? Is there's often a sort of condescension for what do we want to call the muscular class in academic writing, or writing done in an academic program. It's like, oh well, how can I sympathetically portray this person who's dumber than I am? And I never got the idea that guy was dumber than you are. So I have to concur. Like I think that's fascinating, because it just feels like true crime.
It does. And it's like Magnus Mills too. I don't know if you know of him, but like the restrained beast. He always has these kind of working class characters, and there's kind of a clash, but there's an apathy at the same time. Deadpan humor. I mean, that story reminds me a lot of Magnus Mills.
Well, it sounds like there's consensus there, Greg. Does that
Awesome.
surprise you, or is that what's your favorite?
My favorite. I really like um the the last one, the San Giorgio's
Yes.
whale.
Yeah.
I would say that would be my favorite.
Well, that reminds me of like an investigative report. And I watch a lot of this. Like I like to watch true crime and investigative reports and things
Well,
like that.
right. Well, the found document, right, is
Yeah.
is really appealing. Like this, this account of something that was not meant to be dramatic, that's just meant to be matter of fact, and here's what happened, but that it is unexpectedly dramatic, and surprising, and reveals some aspect of the world that you didn't anticipate. Yeah. No, I love that quality of actually a number of these, right? That feel like they're not, they don't feel like they're meant to be stories. Yeah. Or they don't have that feeling of intentional story. So,
Which one
all right.
was the most, oh, sorry. Which
No,
one was
please.
the most difficult, Greg, for you to script of all of the stories?
Script. It's a good question. Probably the footbridge one, which seemed was probably the least successful. And
Well,
that's probably why.
no, that could be just me though. I mean,
No, I think you raise a very good point. Even while writing, I think I was struggling a bit with the timeline. and I think it comes through with the final product. So I would say that was probably the most difficult I had scripting.
And I love in the zoo.
Thank you.
I just do. Yeah.
Well, so we are, in my opinion, we have done due diligence in this defense, which is, of course, not a defense because, this is not a piece of work that needs defending, I think. I mean, I don't even know, how would you defend, like, Josh, how would you defend, Lord of the Rings, right? Like, what defense is there? You're like, well, it's really cool. It's great.
I do it all the time, actually. I do have to defend it all the time.
Well, isn't that weird? Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's
doesn't that
weird.
feel unnecessary? You just want to, like, you just hit somebody with the book and go, see? Yeah, no, it's a weird word.
Yeah.
It's a thesis defense, and it's also not a thesis, right? It's creative work in lieu of a thesis. So this is neither a thesis nor is it a defense, and so it's a complete lie. This whole thing is a lie. But we're a fiction program, so that works. All right. Well, so do you all have sort of final questions? I know we haven't been exhaustive, but I don't know that that's actually our remit is to exhaust ourselves and the candidate and anyone who might be paying attention. But do you have sort of I have final questions for Greg. Sort of ending the business part of this. Questions for Greg. But do you all have further questions or comments or critiques or things that he needs? Do you have offenses against which he should defend?
I just one final question from me, Greg, is, after, assuming that we agree to pass you and you go on from this, what are your plans with this audio collection?
Well, I very much plan on releasing this collection already. In fact, I spoke with Pinckney already about it. I think we're going to be airing it on Neophyte Studios. But after that, my step is the next step would be to, I think, create my own online platform to start producing this stuff semi-regularly. And I already have plans to upgrade my mic. I'm going to get an XLR mic, and I'm going to build myself a little homemade podcasting booth. And I definitely want to turn this into a regular thing, and create my own my own online audience, I guess. And I think that's the beauty of something working with a medium like audio is it's so much easier to reach people with audio than just traditional prose.
Very wise to realize that, and to realize you have to build your own audience.
Exactly.
No one is going to build an audience for you. One of the bitter lessons of my 100 years now in this trade. Well, Mary, is there any final thing, or are you just Greg and one left?
No, I really enjoyed this. It's so unique. I mean, I'm sorry. You usually get to somebody hands you something like this big, huge pile, and you go through it and you make and here I just actually had fun. Can I tell you, I had fun listening and making all my comments and all my associations for different pieces of literature, etc. It was a flutter. I enjoyed it. And I told you the only story, that footbridge kind of, I lost my footing. I would like to know why you like Giorgio's Whale the best. Why do you like it the best?
Well, I just like the process of writing it. I thought it was those on Twitch probably haven't read it, but I spend the last like 5-7 minutes just reading a list of fake works cited.
Oh, I know. I know what it feels like. Yes,
And
it was great for me.
It, it was just it was a lot of fun creating because it's an amalgamation of all these like fake sources that I made up, and just having it's probably the most like expansive universe building that I've done in a short story, and I really enjoyed that process. I really enjoyed writing it, and just trying to make all these sources fit within each other for this fake whale that washed up in this fake town in California.
So it was most complex for you.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was fun doing it. And I purposely did it at the end as well. It's the very last story in the thing, because the last 7 minutes is just a made up book cited page. So I thought it'd be funny to end with that.
Okay. Yes. The dreaded works cited page. I'm sorry. And let you see it. Oh, quite imagine. That's yeah. When you were reading this, I go, oh, here, okay. Yeah, did he really use this source or not? You know, all this pomposity posing.
Like
and
that
I'm like,
around Greg a lot, Mary. Like, oh, well, okay. It's Kassen. What are you going to do? I mean, you know, it may please you to know, Josh, since Greg was your student as an undergraduate, and it was your advice that brought him to SIUC, to our MFA program, that Greg has become something of a cult figure here. And so let's turn to sort of, you know, we'll turn to kind of our wind up for this non-thesis, non-defense. You know, you Greg, you arrived here, you know, a little less than 3 years ago. And I will not make you rehearse the entire incident, but your beginnings here were inauspicious. I think it is fair to say, is inauspicious a reasonable? I mean, the police were called. Let's just say that, and you know, and you had to spend a lot of time talking to the police, and I had to spend a lot of time yelling at administrative types and that kind of thing, and lawsuits were threatened, and that was within minutes of your arrival, at least as I recall. It may seem different from that to you, but the first thing I knew that whole year was, yeah, the cops came for Greg Kassen. And maybe your mother doesn't know that. Does your mother know the whole story?
I don't think she knows the whole story. No.
Oh, okay. Mom, but you're gonna have to have a talk with Greg. So, but you went from being a pariah, I think it is safe to say, and denunciation by your classmates, you know, the suspicion of the police, a meeting with the dean of students. First time any of this has ever occurred, and you know, I've taught many places for many years, and nothing like this has ever occurred before. And so I went to bed a lot of nights cursing Josh Woods' name, going like, that. Why did he send this guy? Like, well, what is he doing? But it was not your fault. We will stipulate that you were entirely innocent. And it was really you know, I make light of it, but it was a critical moment for me in terms of you know, sort of, you know, free expression, and you know, what artists are allowed to do when in fact they're not allowed to do anything. Like, if we're asking permission, then we're not artists, right? If you think to yourself, am I allowed to do this? Well, then you're just I don't know what you are, but you're not an artist. And so so it was a serious moment, I think, for me and for the program. It radicalized me in terms of my relationship to the university, which I had always assumed was, if any place, was a bastion of free expression. And it turns out to be actually just kind of like, it's like outtakes from the film The Lives of Others. which shocked me. And if you don't know The Lives of Others, you should watch it. So it was shocking for me. It was a real growing up moment for me. And so I appreciate that. But it was a tough beginning, and I worried very much that you would leave the program, not because of any, difficulty with the work or what you were asked to do, but simply because the university treated you so shabbily when you first arrived. And I have no problem going on record that your treatment was shabby, and you've done well, I think, to overcome it, get past it, and to win the trust, affection, and enthusiasm of your classmates and of the people who have entered the program after you did, right? That you overcame a situation that, had I been confronted with it in my first weeks of graduate study, I would have left the school. I have no question about that. And I would have rejected academia, and I would have rejected all the people who were so unkind to me. And many people, and I'm sorry to turn this into a peroration, but a number of people whom I really liked and still like and trusted were absolutely on the wrong side of that one. And it was obvious to me from the very beginning that they were on the wrong side of it. And it made life difficult here for a while. Anyway, it seems to me, given that now you really are, when I mention your name in my classes, I'll get a response like, "I am obsessed with Greg Kassen," and I hope you don't end up like stuffed in that person's, back room or basement or something like that. We'll hope it's not that sort of obsession, like would happen to a Greg Kassen character. So how was the journey for you here? I mean, I see it in terms of this, this arc of sort of initial tragedy, and then sort of being overcome by virtue and hard work. But what was your experience here? Like, and what did Illinois get for its money? Illinois lavished money on you over the last 3 years. So given that there are probably thousands of taxpayers watching this event take place, what did I, as an Illinois taxpayer, what did Josh and Mary as Illinois taxpayers get for the money we laved over Greg Cass?
Well, I think the biggest change I've gone through via this program is, well, first, I'm much more bald than I used to be.
It happens to everybody. Look at Josh. I think it's me. I have to say, I think I have adverse effects, or, well, it depends how you feel about being bald. I'm an enthusiast, but there is an inverse correlation between hair growth and spending time around me, apparently.
Yes, it definitely sped that process up. But I just feel like working with audio, I don't see myself. I don't think I would have ever touched audio if it wasn't for me being in your workshop. And I think that's where my biggest growth has come, because I mean, the first semester I entered this program, I would have never thought I would have been producing an entire audio thesis, let alone, and also I'm producing a couple of audiobooks for SIU Press, but most grad students are doing that, so that's not as special. But I think that's the way. It's not unique, I guess, but it is special.
Well, and I will point out, right, for our viewers, that this is the first sort of print-based fiction thesis that we have undertaken potentially to approve.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought there others had done that. So I forgot to ask you about
this is the first one. Other people have had digital components to their thesis, but this is our first entirely like non-physical thesis, and I'm I'm really pleased about that. I think it will become more common as we go along. I know for a fact it will. I will insist that it will. But no, this is our first departure from the from making the pulp truck drivers rich. Which I've never understood. I mean, I'm all people, oh, paper books. I'm like, the person, so you just love pulp truck drivers. Like, I don't know why that's but anyway, go ahead, Greg. I'm sorry. You know me. I have to get my passionate little speeches in.
No, that's totally fine. Just I think working with audio and starting literally at zero experience and working all the way up to this thesis, I think is the most growth I've had in this program. And the fact that I am the first completely digital, non-prose thesis is something I am quite proud of. And everybody after me in this program, I'm the trendsetter. They have to look to me. So I'm setting whatever future course this program goes towards.
Yeah, no, that's right. And you've set the bar nice and low so that as we go along, others will not feel diminished. So that's I really appreciate that. By the way, the right answer, if somebody says that what you did was too easy, the right answer, and I know Josh said he was asking questions he didn't have the answer to, which is, clearly he did not learn the lessons that I tried to impart. But the right answer is, yeah, it was really easy. You worked really hard and got exactly the same degree. That sucked
Yeah.
to be you.
Yeah.
No. Just never anybody says something to you like, oh, what you were doing is too easy. You're like, oh, I didn't realize like things were better if it was harder to make them. Like that's just because there's no correlation between the effort put into something. And I know this goes against I mean, yeah, it's good to work hard. I know you worked hard, but if people believe that putting in more hours will make their work more interesting and entertaining, they could not be more wrong.
Yes.
Right? And I don't care. I literally don't care how much time anybody has put into anything. If it pleases me as a member of the audience, I'm not more pleased or less pleased depending on how much effort I find out they've put into it. Right. So yeah, the right answer is, yeah, it was completely easy, but then again, I'm a goddamn genius. That's the answer. That's why it was so easy. I wouldn't advise you to try it, you say too, because you would not find it easy. But for me, nothing more natural in the world.
Yeah.
It'll drive them crazy to think you're getting the same benefits they get, but you didn't work nearly as hard.
Yeah, I think it was Saint Thomas Aquinas who said that, like, not everything that is more difficult is more meritorious.
Yeah.
And if Aquinas says it, then stand on that, man. So, and if
No,
same thing with,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
no, I
same
didn't
thing
know
if you're like, if somebody asks you for a quote for your work or your talent, like, well, this other guy quoted me less and he's more renowned. You just go back to that. Well, it's harder for me because he has talent and I have to work at it. So you got to pay for it. So it could go both ways, but work that.
Yeah, no, any question that is asked of you with obvious, like, invidious intent, you just answer it whatever way pleases you and heaps more coals on the questioner's head. You're not required to make a manifesto about your own virtue. And in fact, when people are jealous of you, which is indicated by this is too easy, right? When people are envious, then the best thing to do is simply to lie. You don't owe them any truth. I mean, just as you really don't owe us truth. In your non-thesis, non-defense, how much of this should actually have to be true or correct or anything like that? It's one of the virtues of creative writing that we apparently have no standards. So I don't know. Are we still streaming? Maybe not.
I have to add, Greg. I mean, I remember when you were a younger awkward psycho, and now you're an older awkward psycho, and I'm just so proud. I'm so
I would
proud
say,
of
coming
you.
from Josh, that is awkward psycho. Is those are not terms of opprobrium.
Yeah, and I can't help but wonder now that hearing you, Pinckney, kind of relate what happened, our status as a feeder school, or my status as a feeder professor, must be something quite dangerous. Like, oh no, like it's radioactive now. Like, should we accept yet another one of Woods's former students? I don't know if that's an absolute yes or an absolute no, but I'd rather have that than middle ground.
No, 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 no. Absolutely right. I mean, yeah, yeah. Thou art neither cold nor hot. Thou art lukewarm, and I spit thee out of my mouth. Right.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
no, yeah. You do not want to be lukewarm, because you will not be eaten by Yahweh.
Yeah.
So okay, well, so good. I'm glad that you feel that you've grown here, that you've discovered your métier, that, or one of your métiers, and that you don't feel too scarred by your unfortunate welcome or non-welcome, as this is a non-thesis, non-defense. You got a non-welcome to the class, because the thing that kept running through my head the whole time that was going on was, when I told this guy he was being admitted to this program, he said, "This is the best day of my life." And I'm like, and now what are we doing? Like, you know. Anyway, so I'm very pleased that you feel that you've left here. Well, so I ask you, as I ask everyone at the end of a thesis defense, you have been at SIU not as long as Mary and I, but you've been here as long as Josh was. So you know this program as well as anybody who is not on the faculty here does or gets to. And so, can you frame for us, perhaps frame for us the things that you think that we do well, that we should retain or amplify in our practices here? And will you then take a moment to suggest to us the ways in which we could strengthen the program, or make the lives of MFA students better, better?
Yeah, I'd love to. I I I feel like right now the program is in a transitional phase. It has been for a while. We're moving away from traditional prose to more digital humanities, and I think my thesis is a good indicator of that. And I like the way that's going. If I would have been admitted to any other program, or if I would have gone to any other program rather, I I I wouldn't have found audio, and I'm happy that here I was able to find audio, and I was encouraged to pursue that. So and it's going to just be more common going forward, it sounds like, and I very much appreciate that. But there's also this idea of, if you want to continue with just prose, you have the option in this program, at least currently, to keep only doing prose if that's something you desire to do, even though I feel like that would be a missed opportunity. But I like that. I like that. And when it comes to I'm very happy I had the opportunity to be a TA here at SIU. I know a lot of not every fiction writer likes being a TA, and I totally understand that. But I think it's great. I kind of enjoy teaching English 101 and English 102. And even being I got to teach creative writing as well, which was really great. And I'm leaving this program having 3 years of teaching experience. So I'm even though not everybody would agree, I really like that I get to be a TA. I guess forcing us to teach 101 is a little different. But in terms of suggestions for change, I honestly can't think of anything very significant. I think this is, save for my first semester, this has been a very rewarding, very great experience.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, and by the way, is the correct answer. You suss that out. Everything's fine here. That is definitely the right answer. So, all right. Well, we are going to. I'm going to send you into oblivion for a time while we decide your fate, and then just keep your eye open for there should be either white or black smoke, and either you will be the new pope or not when you return. I suspect these are always fairly short, and I I don't know what to tell. Matt Gordon, who is streaming us, are we going to stream our deliberations so that Greg's mom knows before he does if he gets his degree? So yeah, why don't we if we can blank the Twitch for a couple of minutes, and I'm gonna let's see, I'm going to put Greg in the waiting room. You get to watch Well, we have conferred, my esteemed colleagues on this committee, and I have conferred extensively about the work that you did today in presenting your thesis to us. And we have gone over the work that you have done over the past 2.5 years. And welcome to the ranks of the Masters of Fine Arts. You are hereby admitted to the terminal degree. We do not recognize the creative writing PhD here. You're welcome to the terminal degree in the discipline of creative writing. Congratulations and well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks to all of you for being a part of my thesis committee. I very much appreciate it.
No, this was a good committee. I really enjoyed this committee because this is a committee of audience members rather than competitors. You know what I mean? Like, everyone here is just interested in story and how interesting it is and whether we like it or not. And that's anathema in academia, but
Oh, it's refreshing.
obviously what we need. So yeah, this was a delightful defense and a very fine committee in my view. Well, thank you, Greg. I will be sad not to see you around the halls of Fainer. You've been next door to me for 2.5 years now, haven't you?
Well, I mean, 1 year we were all at home, so, but yes.
Yeah, no, that is true. That is true. But I am. If you were in your office, I could, and there were not a wall, so I guess it's not really a good. But I could throw a rock and hit you. So all right. Well, very good. Well, successfully done, and we will do the paperwork. I don't think there's further paperwork you have to do with us. You have to obviously submit your thesis. How the graduate school will handle that, open question. You might want to copy me when you submit the thesis so that if they flip out,
Yes.
and are like, this isn't on paper, so it can't be real. But I mean, they've got a theses like this from the audio people all the time, I presume. So, but I would do that as soon as possible, just so you have the maximum amount of time to get any sort of trivial details worked out. Okay, but we will do our paperwork for you, and we will see you on the playground.
Congratulations, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Good job, Greg. Good job.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. This was a very pleasant meeting.
And it's a pleasure to meet you, Josh.
Pleasure to meet you too, Mary. Thank you. And good to see you again, Pinckney.
As always, man. Any committee member who threatens violence during the course of the thesis.
Did I do that? I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I will hunt you down and pin you to the wall.
Yeah,
I think
I would have. Yeah,
it was appropriate. It was called for. It motivated the subject. So I mean, I have absolutely no. I mean, that's like the old days in academia.
yeah.
Right.
It's a heuristic. You gotta shortcut your way to true education and get a real answer out of people.
Exactly,
It works. So.
Exactly. All right, I'm hitting end meeting for all.